Okay, perfect. So we're going to have a conversation around the income statement. And probably some of us tend to just maybe put in the information really quickly, never really think about it, unless you're about to apply for a loan or something, when in some of the loan application forms, it is a requirement, basically. But how many of us actually do it on a regular basis so that we can understand the word net worth, understand our net worth, understand where we are, where the gaps are, and where we need to fill in? So can you go to the next page, please? Okay. Scroll down. Scroll down. Yes, this is a sheet. See if we can make it a little bigger. More. Okay. So let's have a conversation. Thank you very much, Latoya. So let's have a conversation around this statement. So sometimes when I talk to people about their, doing their records, financial statements, they just freak out because all of a sudden it becomes a little complex. But these numbers are not very difficult once you understand what you're looking at and how you're analyzing. So as I said on the first day, my focus is really expanding your knowledge and capacity so that you can make some critical decisions. And one of the critical decisions is this, your personal, when we're looking at personal income and personal finance, we're looking at your income statement. And once you understand how the income statement pretty much works, translating it into the business income statement isn't very difficult. Now, for most of us, we're small businesses. I won't go over too much because I know Dr. Kamara would have already gone over quite extensive aspects in terms of your legal registration and all of that. But it's important you separate your business from your personal life. Very difficult, almost nearly impossible, but it is key that you have that separation. How many of you on the call have not done that as yet?
Have not.
Okay. What can I say? What do you think is holding you back from doing that?
I can't say time because that wouldn't be an excuse. I think I'm just putting too much in my head for it. So it's a mental thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like it's too much of a big project. So I'm just, mental.
Okay. Anybody else? Do you find it a bit challenging to separate the business from your personal? Or what tools and techniques have you used to get that done?
Yeah, I find it difficult. So there have not been any tools that I've used because it's difficult.
Okay. So it's not as simple as, sometimes it's not as simple as, it means you have to be a little bit more disciplined. Meaning you have, apart from getting registered and having accounts in your business, etc., you have an account in your business or several accounts in your business name, and then you have personal accounts. There are times when it could be challenging because we tend to once money comes into the account, pay yourself. So you have to at least have an idea of what it is would you consider a business expense. So, for example, when I have my hat on as my consulting firm is incorporated, so it is by virtue its own legal entity. So what I have done after COVID and things changed and I had to kind of set up my home office. So what I did was incorporate, like when you're paying certain bills and stuff, assign it to the business. So there are certain bills, well, yes, I might share, like I have a office space, etc., within the house, etc., but I assign certain bills to that so I can expend it as a business expense, since I spend 16 hours a day, probably in my home office, right? So you have to analyze what your expenses are. Sometimes we don't take the time to sit down and itemize it. So for some of us who are more seasoned, what I'm sharing with you is, it's normal, it's done. But the difference is a lot of us do not necessarily spend the time to itemize our expenses. So if we look at the expense column, if you notice it's broken down, these are just examples. While this sheet is like in a PDF format, I think I will share with you the Excel version so you can edit it according to you. So first and foremost, when you're thinking of your personal expenses, what you need to do is try and list every single thing. For example, the phone. I notice when I ask certain people, they don't actually factor in the credits and the top-ups and stuff on their phone, or even if it's a bill, they don't factor it in. So when you take your time, it probably might take you 15, 20 minutes just to start itemizing all the things that you spend on a monthly basis, okay? So you can do this sheet based on a monthly or even annually. You start with the monthly just to give you an idea of where you're going, and then you can multiply it by how much ever to get what your expenses are. So if it is you have a mortgage, your monthly expense is more or less the interest payments, okay? And if you're paying principal, that principal amount should also be reflected. But it will be reflected under your liabilities section, so you can break it up. If you have a car, cars do eat up a lot. So every time you buy gas, have an idea of how much you're spending, etc. You'll be surprised when you start looking at your expenditure, where all this money is going. It would be good to start tracking to see what you spend on. Then once you have an idea of all your expenses, then it's easy to start identifying which of these expenses can you actually allocate towards the business. And in doing so, then you're able to then sort of budget and take out a portion going into the business account for the business. A lot of times when I talk to business persons, one of the challenges is paying themselves or knowing how to pay themselves. So you obviously have a component of expenditures that have to happen, which is like your working capital and stuff, which come out of the business. And a lot of times they get blended in with your personal expenses. So this is why it is kind of important to have separate accounts for separate activities. So if you know that a lot of working capital tends to go into the personal, this is where you must be disciplined and start to allocate some in an operational account that you're normally utilizing. Hence why you have to then have other accounts like for business emergency fund. That's something that you put aside for savings. It could be even in the form of an investment account with a fixed deposit, a certificate of deposit for a fixed amount of time, but that is separate as an account. So if you notice on this spreadsheet, I broke it up to 3 types of income. So you have your normal earned income. That's the income like where you're trading your income for money. Okay. Or trading your time for money. That's working, wages, etc. If you have side gigs, side hustles, where you are trading your time for money, it could be teaching or whatever, that income can be seen as earned income. Then you have what I would consider passive, and the reason I would call it passive is it could be business income, but it's passive in a way that it's not technically passive, but it's just another source of income that comes in that is not your earned income. Obviously, business is not passive, you're actively working in it. So maybe it might be a should I say categorization when I think about it. But for example, if you have apartments, you're renting, some money is coming in from real estate, that's that will fall under the passive income, or if you want to call it business income. Someone just put a chat. Bronte, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me still? Okay. Okay, so maybe it's Bronte's, Bronte, you might want to log out and come back again. Uh-huh. Okay, perfect. So then you also have some people who probably laid off, might be getting money from Social Security. The $1,000 you received 2 weeks ago, that can actually fall under that extra income, if you want to label it as extra income. That wasn't expected. Okay, awesome, Bronte. Then what is interesting is portfolio income. So on Tuesday, when the second session, sorry, mixing days, second session, when we spoke about investments and these additional things, that came under portfolio income. So the reason I find the income statement is not utilized the way we should, it first gives you like a reality check sometimes. So this activity, when we do it as a collective. It's not to judge one another or whatever, but when you do it by yourself, it gives you a strong reality check, because you then realize, oh gosh, am I building my net worth, meaning your asset portfolio? Because if you're building your net worth, it means your assets are growing and your assets are generating income for you. So this is where, Toya, can you scroll down below expenses? Okay, perfect. Up again a little. Okay, perfect, there. So at the bottom, you have your assets and liabilities. And remember where I left off the last conversation, I was saying, well, when you're looking at your spreadsheet, you first have what comes in, which is your earned income, what goes out, which is your expenses, okay? And then, of course, what makes you money, which are your assets, and what takes money away from you, which are your liabilities. So if you pack up on liabilities, these are like loans, you're owing somebody else, or they own you. but you're not able to make any money unless you're using that big word, leveraging that loan to do something else. So your goal is to always try and start building up your assets over time. For me, a business, this business you're in is considered an asset. Yes, it has its own risk or whatever, but you do know once you put in $500, you're buying inputs, whatever, and you grow. So you're growing lettuce, for example. After 6 weeks, the lettuce goes, you can sell it. So it is actually generating some value for you. So this is very important. Some people will say, oh, this is where we have this section called doodads. A doodad is just a made up word, but these are, you can say, what a bank would consider an asset, but really an asset for them. If you notice, it's much easier for you to get a car loan from the bank than a business loan. From the minute you say car, the banks are offering you God knows how long, because it's short to medium term, 5, 6, 7 years. They can easily get a return from it, and they can easily seize the car when they're ready. So as far as they're concerned, a car is easy to flip. Worst case scenario, they take it back as collateral, they can sell it. So this is why car loans are very easy to get. And over here, we have many different options. We even have the TDCs and Horsfords getting into that type of business because it's easy. But when you ask for a business loan, oh no, that goes into a whole different area, a whole different category of risk. They have to assess this, assess that, whatever. So just be mindful. Just because it's easy doesn't necessarily mean it is an asset, unless you make it an asset. For example, if depending on your business, right? So we're into agro-processing, agriculture, and a lot of us would need transportation. It's a big part of your budget, okay? A big part of your expenditure, especially if we're thinking about, say, on the farm, and you have to now do a lot of post-harvest handling. You still need the vehicle handy, whether it's a truck or tractor to pack the produce, etc. Or if you were the type that goes to the market to sell, you still need transportation to carry to the market, and to go back and forth to do your business. So in that context, vehicles, and I wouldn't just say car, vehicles, depending on what you're using it for, could be seen as maybe a short-term asset, but it's one that does depreciate very quickly over time, right? So you should always make sure if you're getting a vehicle, put aside a little bit for depreciation, you put aside a little bit for maintenance, because if the thing goes down, you have to find money for parts, etc., which a lot of us don't do. But guess what? If you're an accountant, on your balance sheet, you always have to account for depreciation, account for those additional expenses. They account for it one time. So be very careful of loading up on these, you can say, fake or possibly fake assets, because they might not be assets. For example, your home. Is that really an asset? A piece of land that's not working for you, you just have it there knocking down. Okay, yes, over time land appreciates. But look at what happened when a lot of the banks were basically taking a lot of collateral in land. Didn't they have to just redo the whole laws to sort of change that a little bit. Why? Because non-real estate is illiquid. Illiquid, meaning if you had to try and liquidate tomorrow, you still have higher because it's so forth. So it's not very easy to sell property or a piece of land. Not knocking down to say it is a good asset class, but it's definitely a very long-term asset class, and it's not going to, you can't liquidate it quickly to get quick money unless you have a ready market for it. So this is why it's considered an asset class that is illiquid. So, and secondly, why a home is under there, because some people think the home is the asset. No, the home is the asset for the bank. Not unless you've been paying for it for 50 years and you have home equity in it. Maybe you've paid off nearly 75% of your loan. Then it becomes an asset. Or you now design something where you are now leveraging it, you're turning it into a guest house, you're doing some Airbnb, and you're putting it to work. Then you can now list it as an asset because you're actually, it's working for you, it's generating the income, whatever it's doing, it's helping you pay the mortgage, you're putting it to work. So that's a very simple way of thinking about assets and liabilities, right? Assets make money for you, liabilities take money from you. But as I said before, there are some liabilities you definitely need to help you grow. It's how you are taking those liabilities, where you're putting those liabilities to make it work for you quickly. So this is where the strategic decision making is. So how many of you have actually taken the time when you're doing your income statement or your profit and loss statement, personal, to really look at it from the perspective of what is your net worth? What is your net worth from the perspective of the banker? Because you might list, of course, cash in a bank. Cash is king. So whether it's cash under your mattress, which I don't encourage you to do, or cash in the bank, be it on your debit card, in an account in the bank, wherever. Cash, you know, your cash is already liquid. You don't have to liquidate it. The more cash you have, you can put it to work. So it's an asset. For those of you invested in shares, okay, shares fall under equity because you have equity ownership. So shares would be seen as an equity asset, okay? And if your shares are generating, not all shares, remember I mentioned not all shares are equal, so you have to understand the terms. Like if you have like a national bank type of, you know, share, you know, national bank gives you dividends. So some shares give you dividend income, which is regular after their profits, and some don't. So not all do. Some people hold shares because they can go into the marketplace and trade them. So you buy low, sell high. So you're not necessarily looking for a dividend payout. You're just looking for what we call a spread, an arbitrage, where you buy low, you sell high in another market. So this is where trading comes in. And for the most part, when you see cryptocurrencies, a lot of people would use cryptocurrencies in that way. And I said before, with cryptocurrencies, because it's a new structure, a new convention, obviously the type of people that were initially attracted to cryptocurrencies are people who are called speculators. They're not investors. They're all about trading. Buy low, sell high, tell fake stories to raise up the price and then, sell and make their money. So a lot of crypto increases happen through this mechanism. But for example, if it is Bitcoin, for example, which is like the first crypto, which still has, I say, a fixed, it might fluctuate in price, but it still has value as a very long-term asset. This is not something you would take all your money, sell everything and put it in and expect to benefit in the short term. No, crypto right now acts almost like a commodity, almost like how land would work over time, something that is long-term, it has value, and for the most part, it had gone up to like 65,000. Right now, it's still in the 20-something thousand. You can imagine those persons who initially got it when it was $100. I remember I had maybe 3 or 4 cryptos back in the early days. It was very mathematical, very technical. And I remember playing with the thing and this is the Bitcoin, I remember. And I probably had 3 or 4. And lo and behold, I didn't know what the value was going to be. So obviously, when your computer mashed up and you throw away the drive and whatever, I would never forget. I have maybe about 3 or 4 Bitcoins somewhere in a wallet somewhere. Okay. So, but it does have value long-term. Once you obviously got in early, you got it at a very good price. A lot of persons start to get into this frenzy of wanting to buy in real quickly because they're seeing the price going up to 65,000. My dears, when you have something up so high, you're way too late. You did not take advantage of the time when it was worth less than $100. I remember when it was worth $1, So don't get carried away with some of the advertisements and so on, just because you see something high in value. You have to do your assessments, as I said, do your own research and understand that for those speculators in a particular market, they don't mind driving up the price because before you jump in. So I'm not giving advice to say go and buy crypto. Just understand where its uses are, etc., etc. For people who are investing, remember I said, when you are looking at your asset portfolio, so I call it a portfolio. Think of your bag. When you have your handbag, you have different compartments, and each compartment you put something in there. This is how you have to treat your assets, whatever they are. The land, the real estate, even accounts receivables. Yes. So I know people don't like some people's businesses. They don't like to give credit, okay? But sometimes, depending on the type of business, you do rely on some credit terms, whether it's 30 days, etc. You have to manage your receivables very carefully, because if your receivables are late, what happens? You can't pay your bill. You start falling behind. So when you're looking at your asset, you need to have a structure and a strategy for chasing after your receivables as well. Very important. Yeah. So when you are, just looking at, think of it as a handbag, you're putting all your things in the different compartments of the portfolio. It is very important to manage each one. Notice this is a personal financial statement. I put childcare because there's some persons who depend heavily on childcare. Maybe it's through the court or whatever. So, it's debatable about if it's an asset, but yeah, some people consider it as an asset. So, So this is something that I want you to be a Excel version of it, and I'll show you really quickly how you can populate it, and then looking at the scores so you can analyze your net worth and analyze where you're falling short. I remember when I first did this years ago, I would have been filling this out when you're applying standard application, but never really think about it until I sat down to do this exercise for myself. And I remember feeling all sorts of emotions, feeling a little dejected, feeling sad. Why? Because when I fill everything out, it's very high on the wages, very low on the assets. And I'm like, this is why I'm burning myself out. Yes, I might be increasing the amount of income I'm bringing in, but is that really smart? And does it really make sense long-term if I'm not at the same time putting a strategy together to build up the assets? So your net worth is very important for you. Everyone's net worth, remember, everybody's got their own magic number, but it's a litmus test to say, are you growing sustainably? Are you putting things away for term for your business? Are you putting when you look at your assets? Jody's having issues. Heather issues. Okay, hold on. It might be my connection. Audio cutting out, okay. Let me know if when the audio is back, it might be my connection. Testing, testing, testing. Is it better? Let me know if it's better.
Yes, it's better.
Better, okay. All right, thanks for alerting me. So really quick, before we take a 5-minute break, and I'll get the spreadsheets. How many persons are familiar with just the income statement? It's called an income statement or profit and loss statement for personal and also for business. How familiar are you with it? How comfortable? And how often do you do it to check on your wealth building, where you are with your wealth building, where you are with even your debt, and so on? And how many people are using it as a tool like that? The floor is open.
I've heard of it, but I don't use it at the moment.
Okay, familiar, not used. Okay. How many of you have filled it something out when you had to apply for a loan, but never thought about it? You probably just said, me, what this bank want all my business? Because the bank wants to know what your net worth is for them, right? They want to see what's coming in, just as an initial, it's like an initial conversation starter where they want to have an idea of what the numbers are. They want to make sure, like when you're looking at even your income, if you even look at the first part, your income and your expenditures, this is something you should be doing monthly or weekly because you have an idea of cash flow management. When you're running your business, cash flow management sometimes happens on a daily basis. If you have, remember, we're in business and we have cycles. So today things can be great. Tomorrow you have something like COVID or some other disruption. So we're always in cycles. So when things are good, you need to try and put away a lot more, put more investments, grow your funds a lot more. So that when times are low, then you can start tightening your belt. And some people do cash flow management on a daily basis, especially when you're in an economic crisis. I even had that experience where every day I have to see how much is coming in, how much is going out, how much do I have left to cover my commitments, etc. So cash flow, they say cash is king, but cash flow is what will determine your business survivability. Without cash flow, you can't survive. So even like, for example, it's not agriculture, but even if I'm doing agriculture consulting, for example, that comes with its own risk because I might have on paper a whole bunch of contracts, but if they decide to pay me 90 days, 60 days, I mean, it happens in agriculture when you have people complaining about they can't get the hotels to commit because the hotels want to pay you, in 120 days instead of like, you want it done in 2 weeks or even in 7 days, because you cannot afford to not have that money coming in and money moving in. So these are things that you have to look at. There's some very key indicators you have to start looking at. So that's it. She had to do it. Who else? Amanda? What about you? I'm going to reflect on a call we received
I
today.
have a tracking chart. I
Okay,
have
yeah.
a weekly tracking chart. I have 1 month tracking chart. I have it break down by the week, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months to a year.
Okay.
And every week, every day I track it. I keep
Very
a
good.
track of my expenses and I know what's going in, what's coming out. I know from the dollar to the cents. That's helped me when I go do the shopping for the business.
Right. Very good. Because you have to manage it tightly. If you don't, you end up overspending and so on.
Yes.
That's why, to an extent, I like online shopping. Why? Like, I started using Rams to Go only because, I can see my shopping list and I can predetermine and budget and take things out of the list and so on. Rather than like when you go to the groceries and you start picking things up, sometimes you pick things that you want, but you don't necessarily need. And this is everything you have to always be conscious of. Do I want it or do I need it? Do I really need it to live or do I want it? Because you can actually cut a lot of your expenses once you start to become very clear on what it is you want and what it is you need. Okay, so you still do budgeting. Perfect, Amanda. So these are a lot of us, some people don't do their budgeting and shy away from tracking, maybe because it just seems too much. So if you're the kind of person that, just being able to sit down and go on Excel and consolidate, what happens to writing it down in a book and a paper, like a journal, and just keeping note? And for those who think, okay, paper, after a while, you can't deal with that. They have apps. They have some apps. So I'm going to give you a little extra tidbit. I have collated some links with a few apps one can try to use for their business that are free. One for personal financial management. Others could actually come with a whole back office where you can even have your customer information kept inside there, as well as it sends invoices for you. which is something that can help you close business really quickly. Tracy said, I think COVID taught us how to shop and save. Indeed, indeed, we start watching things a little more closely, right? And realizing there's some things we just do because we like it, but doesn't necessarily mean we have to. So you can actually save it. So it's nearly 7. We're going to take 5 minutes and then I'm going to come back and show you the actual spreadsheet. And then we're going to have the conversation now into the business model canvas. For some of you, you're probably familiar with it, but maybe you haven't seen the Excel version of a business model canvas that actually helps you break down your unit costs and help you relate to it. Because a lot of times I've seen people come and tell me, oh, you know, the bank wants me to produce a business plan. They go to someone or they ask me to do it. When you come to me to do a business plan, we're doing it together because I'm showing you how to think about your business model and how to think about the numbers. Because I've seen very fancy business plans done. And when you start to review the financials, it don't make no sense. It's pretty, but it doesn't make any sense. Why? Because you paid someone a whole bunch of money to write it for you, and you're in the business and you cannot articulate exactly how you make your money, there's something wrong. So we're gonna go look at that, understand what the limitations are, and hopefully we can finish
I'm sorry, excuse me, but it's a bit distorted again.
looking at, okay, I probably need to go into my office. When we take the break, I'll head to my office. Let me know if it's better.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Anyway, we take a 5-minute break and I'll use the opportunity to relocate to better internet so we don't have this interruptions. So let's take the 5-minute break and we'll come back. And listen, I know we're online. I know some things might be new for you, or some things might be pretty obvious, but you might not be, this is a safe space. If you have a question, a concern, you just feel free to ask it. No judgment here. We're all learning from one another. Okay. So 5 minutes and we're back. It's now like 7:04, 7:05. Yeah. Let's do that. I know the topic is intimidating, but we shouldn't be intimidated. All right, so we'll come back and then we'll start having a conversation. Is everyone familiar with the business model canvas? Or have used it? How many persons are familiar with it?
Is that Canva or Canvas?
Canvas.
Oh, no, no, no,
No?
no, not Canvas, Canva.
You see a show in the chat. Yes, for familiar, and N, no, for not familiar. No, okay. The 37 of us in the room. So let's see it. No, okay. No. Okay. We're doing a poll. Everybody else, so everyone who hasn't said no, you're all familiar? Zeldine, Cynthia. Beryl said stumbled onto it once. Business model canvas, how familiar are you with the business model canvas?
I'm not familiar with it at all.
Okay, Selvin said no. Khadijah? Wow. Okay, so this session is going to be interesting for most. I'm familiar with the social lean canvas, okay? Sarah? Nope. Well, hey then. This is going to be like your Bible. So a business model captures, it's like a blueprint. So you know when you're going to an architect to design your house, they have to draw a blueprint first of the land, a little picture in terms of where everything is going to be. You go to the plumber, he'll tell you where the plumbing is going to be, electrician, etc. A blueprint. You can't build unless you have an idea of what you're going to build on. So all of us in business have, should I say, some patterns or some building blocks that we all capture. And these building blocks make up your business, how your business operates. The business model is captured within the business plan. You can say the business model has got a lot of the information from your business plan. So once you can nail your business model, then the additional things that you put in the business plan will make sense. But it is like the logic of your business, how your business creates value for its customers. So if you're going to someone to invest, they want to understand, how do you create value for your customers? How do you create value for your market, right? So this is what the business model captures. So it's the same like if you had to now write grant proposals, you would have heard of a logic model, meaning if you understand how to prepare the logic of what is your objectives, what are your goals, specific objectives, what are the results, and you follow that pattern, you're able to then really produce or respond to a lot of grant proposals. So it's the same. Every enterprise, while we might have variances and differences, understanding your business model is going to give you what we call a competitive edge. Because with understanding your business model, you then are now empowered to see which areas you can tweak in order to optimize your business, increase revenues, or even transform the entire model and unlock more capital. So you should be, so when I walk through the business model framework with you, I'm not just going to walk with the framework, I'm also going to give you a tool to use where you can now capture the, I call it the unit metrics, the units, so that you understand exactly how you are making money. And you can now start calculating it. And you can probably use it to get like an initial feasibility before you start moving things into your profit and loss statement and your balance sheet, etc. Okay. All right, so let me share my screen. Hold on, let me first figure out where I opened it. Have a lot of things open. Okay, good. So since a lot of you are not familiar, I think I'll play a video first, and then I would go into the spreadsheet. Okay, let's see. So I would say maybe when was 2010, 2009. Around that time, there's a gentleman called Alex Osterwalder. He was actually at my university in Switzerland, and I remember going to listen to his dissertation. He was doing, I think it was his PhD or master's. I believe it was his PhD. So he and his professor and everyone was talking about it. So I went to go and watch. And I listened, and I was fascinated at how this guy spent years just trying to break down how enterprises create value for customers. Break it down into a simple, you can call it one-page dashboard. For me, it's more like a dashboard, where it's a one page. You can capture all the elements in the one page. It's also how our brains think when you think about it. We think in pictures, and we can keep things in different compartments. So it's an easy way of capturing the information for you to flesh it out later and then produce a business plan. The reason why business plans, you could say, some people will say, are dead. Not necessarily dead. Only these days, you know, people want a business plan. They're mostly banks because they're very structured, etc. I'm not saying a business plan is bad. It's just that a business plan will only give you a snapshot of your business in one point of time. Think of it. Think of it. For those of you who are running your business, something happens every day. Every day there's some new dynamic, some story, whether it is you're having supply chain issues, you're doing pepper sauce, you can't get peppers, so you have to spend all day trying to source new peppers, and you can't get them in St. Kitts, so you have to call St. Vincent, you have to call right up to the Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo, to get your peppers done, you know? So every day things happen and things change. So your business, it's like you, it's almost like its own, it has its own heartbeat. It has so many things happening at one time or the other, that when you write a business plan, it's only like a picture, a snapshot in time. So I can produce a business plan today, and next month, it's irrelevant. Why? You're going to see later on why it's irrelevant, because it's only a snapshot. This is why it's important as an entrepreneur to understand how your business creates value, and how your business makes money, so that you can tweak, because every day you're tweaking. Sometimes you might test a new product, it doesn't work. You wrote a plan for a particular product. When you check it 6 months later, it's old, it needs to be revised. And if it was one of those 20, 30, 40-page plans, the amount of work in doing the plan, you might as well just find a shorter way of just capturing the key elements really quickly to flesh out your plan. Okay, so let me share my screen. I'm going to do the video. I hope you'll be able to hear it. I believe so. So now this has now become.
organization's business model can be described with 9 basic building blocks: your customer segments, your value proposition for each segment, channels to reach customers, customer relationships you establish, the revenue streams you generate, the key resources and key activities you require to create value, the key partners, and the cost structure of the business model. But it's not sufficient to just enumerate the 9 building blocks. What you really want to do is to map them out on a restructured canvas. This is what we call the business model canvas. It helps you map, discuss, design, then new business models. Let's briefly go through the 9 building blocks, starting with the customer segments. These are all the people or organizations for which you're creating value. This includes simple users and paying customers. For each segment, you have a specific value proposition. These are the bundles of products and services that create value for your customers. Channels describe through which touchpoints you're interacting with customers and delivering value. Customer relationships outline the type of relationship you're establishing with your customers. Revenue streams make clear how and through which pricing mechanisms your business model is capturing value. Then you need to describe the infrastructure to create, deliver, and capture value. The key resources show which assets are indispensable in your business model. Key activities show which things you really need to be able to perform well. The key partners show who can help you leverage your business model, since you won't have all key resources. And once you understand your business model's infrastructure, you also have an idea of its cost structure. So with the business model canvas, you can map out your entire business model in one image. This works for startup entrepreneurs just as well as for the senior executives.
All right, does that make sense? It's like your one-page business plan, in a way. I'll show you which elements you have to add. So what we're going to focus on, I have an Excel version of it. Hold on. So what you normally will get when you go to workshops is that whole canvas, and the canvas breaking up the 9 building blocks, and mostly on paper. You do different activities where you start mapping out who your customers are, how, so channels are, again, if you did marketing, how you communicate with your customers, how your customers find you. So it's both logistics and communications at the same time. Customer relationships define the type of relationship you have with your customer. Is it direct? Or do you go through an intermediary? Or do you go through a distributor? Or do you, are you doing farm direct marketing? Are your customers buying it online from you direct? Or you have to go set up relationships with distributors, especially for us doing agro-processing, we have to do that. Set up different distributors, build relationships with distributors, and then let them do the placements for you. So you have to understand what type of customer relationships is part of your model so you can tweak it. And then, of course, your value proposition will be what is the statement? What is the type of statement that you are actually meeting a person's needs? You're actually addressing their problems. So I think Sarah mentioned she's familiar with the social lean canvas. So ever since the business model canvas came out, you probably might find different variations of them. You have a variation for sustainable businesses, a variation for green business. But the whole purpose is there are certain building blocks that are part of your enterprise DNA that no matter what enterprise you are, these building blocks that keep unlocking certain value, because these are how You're in business to actually serve your customer. You're in business to solve people's problems, really. So when you think about it like that, what is the value you're bringing to solve a problem? So it's captured in the value proposition, which is like smack in the middle. So I think of the right-hand side as your value creation. And this is where a lot of us, or at least the bigger businesses, don't really spend much time. So when you think of going to a business admin class, or when you hear someone's going to do business, they tend to focus on this other side, the left-hand side. Your resources, human resource management, human capital, people, talent. That's a resource. Land, that's a key resource. Okay, land, labor. So your factors of production are part of your key resources. Obviously, as we're adding more services to our mix, especially if we're doing more value add and we're moving up the value chain, and we're doing more packaging, we're producing items. So you now have to now look at packaging, labeling, and all these standards, etc. These are additional resources, okay, that make your business. And obviously, out of these resources, there's a management practice that comes out of that, because each of them will have to be managed. But they're all key resources if you lump them all in one. So where you find most business programs would focus on is on the management of your resources, be it your financial resources, financial management, your human resources, human resource management, and so on. But no one is telling you, a lot of times we forget, we have to find the customer, develop the customer, sell to the customer in order to have something to manage. So there are two sides to the coin, and one requires a little more outreach. Hence, when you think about traditional things like marketing management, in the region, we don't really do marketing, because this is what we're talking about marketing here on the market side. So your right-hand side of your business model deals with the value creation. It deals with the market. The left-hand side more deals with the management. So you have something now, you have an engine running, you have customers, you know who your customers are. They're coming to you via phone, via WhatsApp, face-to-face, whatever, farmers market, okay? You are reaching out to them on Facebook, on WhatsApp. And then, of course, at the bottom, that activity generates revenue. You can't start managing things if you don't have revenue. So this whole engine in the front, it's like a vicious cycle where you move from customer segment, the channels, channels, and then of course, how are you delivering value to that particular customer? And in what way? Is it direct? It's indirect? How? And at the end of it, it has to be captured by numbers, money. You're making money. So revenue streams are very important. So because in the interest of time, I will show you this canvas, how it's laid out. I'll show you how I can break it down, and we're going to talk about revenue optimization, because there isn't really time to go through the whole entire thing, but we can actually look at revenue model innovation within the spaces we're in, because this is going to help increase your revenue. So really quickly, listen, if you have a question, please stop me, because this is supposed to be interactive space, and I told you before, it might be intimidating, but I'm doing it so it's not intimidating, and you'll be looking forward to start using the tools to make you more money. So let's start off. So there's something you should know. So when we talk about a business plan, obviously, you know, you're in business, you need to know who your customers are. Believe it or not, even till today, there's some people who've been in business for a very long time. When you ask the question who your customer is, what do they say? Everybody. It's not good enough because everybody is going to kill you. It doesn't matter if at the end of the day, your product appeals to a lot of people, but you have to have a focus because it's very simple. You find 80% of your business is coming from only 20% of the market. Remember the 80-20 rule. 80% of your business will come from 20% of your market. You need to know which customers you're going to spend and focus your efforts on and understand their needs. Their needs to the point where you know exactly what makes them tick, what makes them cry, how do they feel. This is why a lot of time is spent on the psychology of everything, because we as human beings, we make decisions on emotions. It's not just about finance. We make all decisions based on our emotion, how we feel, how someone made you feel. And you have to understand what problems each of them have. And so this is a weak point for a lot of us. We tend to say, oh, well, man, I'm doing, popsicles, frozen popsicles. And, well, maybe for the most part, children like it. But you never really think too much, apart from the children, you haven't really thought anyone else. It's for everybody. So then how do you differentiate yourself if you don't know exactly what is motivating them to take these lollies? Is it the sun? Is it the heat? Because our temperatures are now going out of whack. So heat could be a factor. But you might have a certain health conscious group that would prefer a particular type of lolly, ice lolly, because of their health orientation. So I won't go too much in that because I'm sure I think the next module is either going to be agribusiness or you're going to be doing health, but there's some linkages there, so we won't duplicate too much. But bottom line is, each customer segment you identify, you're going to have a different business model for that customer. At the end of the day, you could probably summarize, and some elements might work for everyone, but your strategy for execution is going to be different. This is why sometimes when you think of the business plan only captures just a small component of who you're targeting, what their needs are, etc. It doesn't really capture the essence. So sometimes this is like a consolidated one I did with the previous class where we did it together. So we're probably going to do a co-created one together, because the only way you can understand this is if you're in it, have to be in it to win it, right? So really quickly, using this example, this is a business, you put the business name. So this is a business called Best Frozen Fruits. Obviously, before we got into it, so there's some missing elements in here. Things like tell us about what the business does, etc. This only captures some essence. So I used this area here outside to just take some notes. So if I recall, this was the case study we're looking at. A frozen fruit packaging business. And someone gave me a business profile that it's a family business. Children are involved running it as well. The grandfather owns it. He has the majority of the land. He's 76. They have teenagers involved, okay? And one of the vision of the founders who's running it, the managers, that is the older kids, is to build generational wealth. So it's a family business. They obviously want to keep it in their family, and they're thinking about the younger ones coming. And they're around, the managers are around 35 years old. So this was a kind of business case the group came up with, okay? And so you start thinking about, okay, so we always start thinking of ourselves and say, okay, we want to do this crop, that crop, that crop. But you have to start thinking about who are you really targeting? And I'm not talking about population, because we're in St. Kitts, Nevis, okay? Okay, maybe in St. Kitts or maybe in Nevis, but let's forget about the geographics. What are the problems you are trying to address on a day-to-day basis? Are you looking at people who are like me, have allergies, they can't take gluten stuff, so they're looking for gluten-free, health conscious, or is it more along the lines of people who are maybe suffering from a non-communicable disease like heart disease or diabetes and need low sugar type of foods? What is your market? What is the motivation? And the motivation should be something like a shark bite, because if you have substitutes, let's just say I want to make vitamins. Okay, so I'm gonna make vitamins. I'm growing, I don't know, so I have citrus, I've got trees. I have citrus, and perhaps I've figured out how to do processing so I can get some vitamin C. How much vitamin C is in the market? A lot. What is the motivation for someone taking vitamin C? Okay, yeah, they need it for their health. But is it like a shark bite? Is the pain point so much? Because if it's like a mosquito bite, there are many substitutes. I'm not going to be loyal to your product at the end of the day or your service, okay? Because for the most part, we're all probably in agriculture doing similar things, but we can distinguish ourselves by the nature of our service. And that comes under customer relationship, because you can now design how that service is different. So just understand, you need to know your market. And even if you make generalizations, so just look at this one where they said, okay, we target restaurants and hotels, okay? And for those ones, we probably target the frozen packaged fruits. We have supermarkets and groceries. We target schools, and maybe schools, we might have a different packaging for the schools. Maybe they want like slushies. And then gyms and health centers. See how very different the customer segments are, and how, because each one is uniquely different, what is their pain point and how are we solving it? That's where the value proposition is. So maybe and even I can go further, I can add here, maybe we're targeting a middle-aged woman who are working class. They don't have time to do no cooking or anything, so they need like prepackaged, or at least pre-processed, so that they can pick up, do something quickly and go. They like to pick up the bags of fruit so they can make their shakes and go. But understand that once you define each segment, all of this, maybe not your resources might stay the same, etc., but everything on your value creation would change, because the value proposition is different. Say for middle-aged women, we're probably looking at convenience, okay? You're probably looking at schools that are trying to overcome seasonality. every person has got their own thing that they really, really need to solve, and you're in business to solve it for them. So later on, I think one of the tools I will share with you is the jobs to be done framework, which can help you flesh out these customer needs segments very carefully. But why is this important for finance? Like, why? As I said, at the end of this activity, something has to happen. Something has to land. You're not going to be a crazy person going after hotels, going after supermarkets, going after maybe direct to your customer, and going to farmer market every minute they have it there. If you do not want something at the end. And granted, while this is not a full financial picture, as you recognize from the income statement, this is only one piece of the puzzle. But you do know, if the more you can increase this, the more it can help your bottom line. Because for the most part, a lot of our resources are fixed. So you find when we start looking at the cost structures, some of them are tied to the resources and some are fixed costs, and some are variable costs. Like your electricity with Skelec, Nevlec, what have you, that's variable. But you can still estimate it more or less. If you have an idea, you've been doing this activity for a while, you know your machinery pulls this and that. In the heat, your electricity bill may be a little between 300 and 500. So this is where the fixed and variable costs come in. Some things are fixed, some things are variable. You might have a particular, if you look at your human resources, you might have, say, 2 key staff that are fixed that you're paying salaries from monthly. Then you might have 2 part-times. The part-times do it based on hourly or whatever. So when you calculate that, you might have some variable costs in there. Okay. So your cost structure would make up, unfortunately, in the business model canvas, everything comes in a lump. So this is why this is you only use this to just kind of do a catch-all, but you do need to go into that financial spreadsheet to now break it up. What is fixed? What is variable cost, et cetera, and you start breaking it down into different sheets. But at least when you capture it here, you know, okay, this farm's got 3 crops. I heard someone saying before, they like trees, you know, for long term. So farm got 3 crops. Do you have a separate spreadsheet? You need to be comfortable with using spreadsheets, you know. Do you have a separate spreadsheet that you name? Let me see here. Trees. Sorry. Let's just assume trees. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to building out your plan, you should have inventory of everything. So if you have tree crops, what type of trees? You have tree 1, right? Tree 2. And your list goes on. What is the yield per tree? What months? When did you plant, and so on and so forth? These are the sort of records you need to keep. But it clues you in once you've listed all your key resources. So this is like a bucket. You put everything in one bucket. You can now break out each one and break it down. Your machinery list, very important. All the machinery, because remember, when you're using a machine, there's wear and tear, and it depreciates, meaning it has a lifespan, depending on what the lifespan is when you buy it, but you ask the question. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years, it could be 4 years. You think you bought the machine in 2008, it's still going to be standing today? and you use it every day, because there it gets to the point where you have to sell it. If not, it starts costing you money because you have to buy all these spare parts, and the maintenance cost as well is high. So when you think of your cost, also think long-term costs. If you have a machine, it's probably going to have some repair costs, some maintenance costs, and that cost increases as it ages. This is why we depreciate machinery and those type of things, but you have a separate list for it with a separate cost. So when you use your skill for budgeting, it's just about breaking down the list. So the same way you have your expense list, you break down your machinery list and all the equipment that you use if you're into agro-processing, right down to your bowl that you're using. Put it down. Ladle, you name it, because all of these equipment, they eventually break, right? And you need to replace them. And in your budget, you should always think about the lifespan of the equipment, and then think about how you depreciate it. So for example, it's like buying a car. You buy a car, maybe, okay, a car will run you a few years, but let's just say you look at the piece of equipment and say it's going to give you 10 years really good before things start to get very costly and you have to think of selling it. So when you think of span 10 years, you now have to divide that year on year. So divide whatever that cost is, because you now need to start putting aside money to replace it. Although in practice, a lot of us don't do it. We don't have a separate account where we're putting money in and stuff to break down. Okay. So think of appliances and so on. So this is a list for like an agro processor that we did. Okay. And even we included things like standards. So remember, resources aren't always things that we see. There are certain services that are key. For some people, it could even be intellectual property, getting your trademarks, getting your recipes done. That's a cost, and it's a big sunk cost, but it's part of your infrastructure that makes you money. It's an asset. Okay. So these are things you need to think about. So let's go back to the making money part. So let's take this hypothetical scenario where we're looking at this business is into frozen fruits. And let's take one of their customer segments. So they're targeting restaurants and hotels for frozen fruits. Good. We probably, remember this is just, we're guessing, right? So the hotels probably are focused. So not all the time would your customer segment be your end user. So understand that. Users versus customers. They could be two different ones. So let's say their customers, they're targeting people who need to have frozen fruit, who need to have fruit all year round. So your frozen fruit is addressing a big pain point of lack of seasonality, right? Or lack of, because of seasonality, you don't have consistency, lack of consistency. So the value to those persons is consistency through frozen packaged fruits, for example. It's also convenient. So if so for a restaurant or a hotel, their clients want, sorry, I'm thinking supermarket, sorry. So supermarkets, their clients are looking for convenience, they're looking for quick packages. Maybe they're targeting middle-aged women who are working class, don't have time, so prepackaged. But now when you think about the restaurant and hotel, these are people who want to have the end product. So maybe we have another product, not frozen fruits, probably fruits for dessert, but also juices. We could be doing frozen juices, right? Look, I think Sarah, Mother Becky, has got a nice product for drinks, and that can be even targeting restaurants and hotels where people want a nice local fruit juice around the year. They don't really care if it's not passion fruit season. They want passion fruit, whatever. We know in December we get sorrel, but now you have this product where you can get all year round. So I don't care if it's not Christmas time. I want my sorrel, you know? So understand what the motives are and thing. Sarah says thank you. It's great product, by the way. Very good packaging. I like it. So once you have this down pat, now we're getting into the numbers. This is where you can start innovating on the type of revenue streams. And this is where you have to start thinking out of your box. Okay. It's based on your customer segments and understanding what their needs are and understanding how you're solving their needs. You can come up with very different packaging, not just on products, because remember now we're thinking both products and services. Services are things you can actually generate anytime, anywhere, without even adding any additional infrastructure or resources. So you can actually leverage your existing infrastructure to deliver a service. So let's just say the hotels. So it's not just enough you're packaging the fruits and you're providing juices. You probably might decide, because they also attract visitors, okay? So visitors are a subsegment, and visitors staying over, why not offer services? Why not give them an experience? And now you're going into a type of tourism, experience tourism, where you now can offer them maybe a culinary experience with the products you're actually making. How to make ice cream with the fruit. Okay, so you have a class, so you can now start doing these experience classes. And guess what? You're not adding much to it. I think if you go to Frigga Bay, what's the name of that cafe? I keep forgetting the name. It's right next to Rams, opposite. Yes, sweet and savory. You don't see sweet and savory model? Apart from you going there as a cafe and whatever, you can actually cook together and people can actually watch and see, right? So it's all about the fed-in experiences. So that's a big area, experiences, and it doesn't take much for you to sit down and curate and design an experience. Look at some of the products. Then you're thinking about value add along the product chain. So we started off with fruit off the tree. Okay. You do your post-harvest handling, you wash, you do your cleaning, you sell it. Okay, but what else can you do with it? You can dry it. So you just need to add maybe a dryer, get a new equipment with a dryer. You can do dehydrated fruit. You can put it in snack packs. You can do candied fruit, right? Which we already do. You can make guava cheese or whatever cheese is from the fruit. You can make wine, pie fillings. You see what I'm saying? How can you optimize the thing God gave you? How can you optimize your products to really address, but you're not just making it just because you know how to. They always have to address a particular segment's needs, or else you're just wasting time making it for yourself because it makes you feel good. You like to produce things, right? But what is really selling? So think about that. This is why it's very important. And now that we have this mapped out, this spreadsheet does something very unique in that I can now start mapping out the market size. So you can hear like size of your market. Size of the market isn't something I see like online to say, oh, the market, 10 million customers, blah, blah. Let's get to some real numbers. How many supermarkets we have here in St. Kitts and Nevis? Okay, so let me say 40. How many, then from breaking down, how many restaurants and things, so let's just say 40, and let's say 15, real numbers, right? Then this is where your goal planning, because I told you it's always important to plan. So in my spreadsheet, I'm able to break it down. So I broke it down as one revenue stream is the fresh fruit. So fresh fruit coming off my tree, I sell it per unit. I know what the value propositions is for that particular customer. And this is my customer segment. So here, this particular customer segment, I've already put the number. I said, okay, we're looking at 40 restaurants and hotels and maybe 15 supermarkets on both St. Kitts and Nevis. So realistically, this year, because it might change, this is where we tend to then start getting crazy with our numbers when we start doing planning. Let's just say we're doing this for this quarter. Christmas coming up, Carnival coming up. We want to get some products in. How many supermarkets can we realistically target? How many hotels can we realistically target? Okay. And maybe, because remember, your customer might not be the end user. So maybe even if I'm targeting, let's just say 5%, which is 2 hotels, each hotel I might have a magic number of at least getting in 50 clients, their end clients, because they're big. So I'm going business to business because I know, even though I might only target 2 and spend my efforts building the relationship and, trying to get placements into these 2 Rams and another supermarket, that supermarket, so let's go to supermarkets. We have 5%, 1. So I say I'm focusing on Rams. That supermarket can give me easily during Christmas 100 customers. So this is where you start working out your maths. Then here is where I say some of us miss our numbers. We go broad and we do not thinking clearly. Each of your revenue streams, you must have a price for it. So if this is a unit price, how much are you selling it for the unit? What is your price? Obviously, you're going to do your costing and pricing. Unfortunately, this is not a long workshop for me to do. Costing and pricing is a whole module by itself. But understand, you're pricing an item before you put a price, know your costs, and know your direct costs, and know whatever is variable before you put your markup or whatever. So let's just assume you've done all of the homework, and for the produce or for the package, whether you're selling it per pound or whatever, you can define the units later. So let's just say it's $20 for a pound that you're selling, a pound of food. So realistically, how much purchases are you going to get maybe through the restaurant? Remember, they do bulk purchasing. And so maybe if they're doing bulk purchasing, maybe they might do 1 order every 2 weeks. So we think 2 purchases, and maybe they do it either on a weekly basis or a daily basis. See the magic number? Now we have an idea of actually how much we can really make just off of that alone. and start to make some plans and decisions. And you can do the same for every single sub unit, even somebody said scented candles, every product. This is what we call unit economics. Understanding the very essence of your product and service. Understanding how much, when, and how you can do it, and then putting a plan together. This is why I don't understand. People say agriculture is different, but if you plan right, you can make a lot of money, a lot. But it's just about being strategic and planning. So you might not want to do business to customer. That's like everybody out there. That's too much of an effort. Do a business to business. Because if by putting your thing in RAMs, you're going to have all those customers. So doesn't it make sense to then spend more of an effort building that relationship, getting the placement in so that you can get the volume? And of course, just like your assets, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You have a backup where you probably have placements in every village. So, you know, if we have, I know we're running out of local mini marts and so on, they're run by the Chinese, but still build a relationship with them and place your products right there at the counter. Make unique things and come up with things. So, and again, remember, you're not limited by product. You can offer services, and that's a huge area. You can even offer services to other farmers. So, perspectives, thoughts? Can I get a pulse? So this spreadsheet, actually, because I haven't put in the thing, it says error, but once it filled in, you can now see the numbers. This is now another Canvas view with all the results after we've entered all the information, right? Then it can give you your overview of cost revenues. Again, when you're using this mind, it just lumps all the costs, so fixed costs and your monthly operating costs might differ, so you can always put in brackets so you know. But now from here, you can lift the information and now start filling in your statement, your profit and loss statement, because now you can now capture it there. Question? Welcome, Don. That's okay. You get the recording. So feedback, people? Man, the time. I think the last time I did this, they gave me an extra class. I think we need an extra class for me to go into the cash flow stuff. But anyway, this is just the beginning of a lot of things. So let me get your feedback here. Let me see if I can find a completed spreadsheet. Do not bark. Sorry, my dog. Feedback. Everyone's so quiet. Did I frighten you? What is going on? So key things to put in practice. I need you to really practice on your personal income statement. I have to apologize because my computer went through a big update and it just shifted everything around, everything. So I really need you to go into your journal and really try and test this out. Okay. By populating it, it can give you some clues. And it can give you some percentages. It would generate those percentages so you know what you're worth. And you know what you need to plan to reduce. So if you have a whole bunch of loans, why didn't you think of leveraging those loans and put them into something that is actually generating and working for you? So the personal financial statement is key. And understanding how to read it, very easy. Also, making sure you reduce these things, these doodads that sort of look like an asset, but they're not really. Because if the bank, if you're paying mortgage or loan and that's it, you're home, you're not renting, you're not doing anything else to it, trust me, it is an asset to the bank, not an asset to you. It's a liability. Yep. You're quiet because you're taking notes. Okay, Sylvia. Okay, so let me hear your feedback. Everyone is too quiet. Can't be too quiet. I don't like, just because it's finance. Did this reduce the fear a little bit with numbers and manipulating numbers? Okay, Abigail. In terms of pricing, is it okay to sell the same product for different prices? Of course, of course. Let's go back to our target. Hold on. Now I've lost you. Go back to the target market. Clearly, this is why it is so important to identify your segments. Because, for example, simple thing as lettuce. You agree when you have a bunch of lettuce and probably you're selling it for everybody. You might have just a unit after you've worked out what your direct cost, you worked out, you're broken down for the cost of if you're using fertilizer or whatever, everything is broken down and you know it's probably $5. Don't care. If you've gone to the supermarket and you see Ram selling for 15, 16, remember, everybody has got their own overhead. They probably have a rather loaded resource list. They're human resources, they got to pay salaries, they have to pay electricity. So sometimes what we do is look at what X, Y, and Z and just put up the price, but that's not the best way of doing it. And especially when you're starting out, you want momentum. You don't want to say just because so-and-so is selling cabbage for $15, you're going to sell it for $15. If your costs are much less and you can quickly do a turnover, why are you going to wait to sell for $15 and half of it go bad on you? You're making less. So you have to start thinking about pricing and that thing. So now, so let's just assume you're selling to the hotels. You might be selling bulk. You might have a different wholesale price for the hotels and the restaurants because of how you buy. So obviously this is where, remember Dr. Louise would have talked to you about contracts come in. This is where the contracts come in and the terms come in, just to make sure you protect yourself and anchor the pricing, but each one can have a different model. So in a way, maybe the hotel pricing might not necessarily be higher. You might have like a discounted rate, only because they're buying you literally half of your stock. This way you're moving. See, the whole idea, especially when you're doing goods, is to try and get momentum. You want turnover. You want them to move. Because money, remember when I talked about money? Money is not supposed to just sit down and sit on a shelf. It's supposed to move, right? You need turnover. So the moment you can move, You can buy new inputs, you can, you have to produce. That's how you make the money. That's why sometimes you go to some markets where people have had inventory for a long time and they give sales, or you walk in and you ask for sales and they say, okay, I'll give you 2 for whatever, because you know what? That money coming in can be deployed to get something else. So yes, you can have different pricing, and then depending on packaging, so I might have the same lettuce, but now I'm putting it in nice packages for people who just don't want to be bothered and they want to go away with something. So then you can have a special pricing for that package as well. And that could even be premium. And say you have a good story around it and you're looking at maybe a more premium customer that doesn't mind paying a higher price because you have put it in a nice brand. Yeah. That's why sometimes you're paying for the brand, not the actual lettuce. You get lettuce out of the bag versus lettuce in the bag. You're paying for the brand. Packaging can play a big role in how you can set your pricing. Is that okay, Abigail?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Ladies, you're too quiet, too quiet. You're scaring me. Larazine says, informative, very interesting presentation, quite a lot to take in. Okay, it's a lot to take in, I know. Packed in a few days. And we need more time to practice. So I will be sharing I'm going to share this template for you so at least you can see it done. I find people get more confidence when they have something they could work from, and then versus also an empty one as well. You agree? You vote for more sessions. Well, speak to Helen's daughters if they can squeeze in one more session, because yeah, I would definitely want to share with you on cash flow. See if I can pull it up here before we go. But what I normally do also, because cash flow, the cash flow is like by itself big, I would normally provide a manual by itself to help you. So I think that is what I'm gonna have to do as well. And put some templates together for you to see. So questions? The floor is open. This is our last session, so I'm going to beg for an extra 5 minutes just to try and get your feedback.
Hi, good night. Everything you said was very, very informative, and it's definitely a lot to take in.
Okay.
And I remember you were telling us in the first session that for those who are interested, you would send your schedule.
Yes.
Yes, so I'm really interested about that because it's so much that you give. I can't even ask the questions that I need right now because I'm in shock and happy at the same time. It's just a lot.
Okay, no problem.
All right.
Right. So see how this spreadsheet is? It's simple. This is a cash flow. I really wanted to take the time to do the cash flow, but perhaps another session. Don't focus on the cash flow. But I will share with you at least I'll probably attempt to make a tool for a toolkit that you can then follow to do cash flow. So it's really about if you're doing it daily or whatever, or monthly, know what your opening balance is, and then start to capture all your receipts. And then capture your payments, because remember, what you make, the revenue you generate is not your profit. You have to pay for expenses, you have working capital, you probably have bills to pay. So just don't think because money touching your account is yours. It has the money has to be accounted for, and you need to know where it's going. So having a very simple sheet, it doesn't have to be fancy, just where you can capture what's coming in, which bills are outstanding, by when, which payments are in, and just have that understanding so you can understand how much cash you have left over is very key. Okay. Templates will be very helpful. Okay, awesome. So let's see, today is Tuesday. So before the end of the week, I'll touch base with oh Lord, my brain. Latoya. I'll touch base with Latoya and share these templates for you. And I will also send you a few times, maybe we can slot in an extra session. Or if not, outside of Helen's daughters, I can give you 1 or 2 extra sessions there. Okay, I'll touch base with Latoya and we can organize. Okay. All right, so without further ado. Sorry, someone was speaking.
No, I just said thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Thank you. And I'll be sharing with you the business model canvas template, this particular one with the financials all worked in, one that's filled in and an empty one so you could play with it. But it definitely helps you think when you're using these tools. It's about your decision making, it's about your planning. You need to be able to have these tools to use to plan so that you can make more money and you can manage what money you have. Awesome. Jody. So it's a pleasure. Thank you all for giving me these 2 hours. And I wish you all the best in your additional sessions. I believe the next module might be agritourism, if I'm not mistaken, and there might be, did you do your health? What was it? Nutritional health or nutritional marketing?
Yes, they actually have 1 session left, as a matter of fact. So there's the final session for the SKN Ag Academy.
Okay, so I'll join that session with you guys to see. Awesome. So thank you very much. It's a blessing to have all of you, for me to share with all of you. And I'm hoping the next time we talk money, we're actually talking money and you're not just listening to me. So I hope whatever I've been able to share with you, you can actually apply it to your day-to-day lives and apply it to your business. When you think finance, don't be afraid of the spreadsheets and stuff. Tracy, you said felt like school. I had no, man. You have it set up from the very beginning that finance equates to math and is hard. It's not supposed to be hard. Remember, it gives us clues to what we need to do and what we need to fix. And a lot of times, remember, it's emotional. So this is why we have so much emotional trauma caught up with it. We just lock it away. And now is the time to start peeling back, because you now have the tools within which you can now manipulate and take charge of your finances. So with that, thank you. And good evening. If you have any questions at all, Latoya can come back and ask me, and she can share my information as well. No problem. So I'm just respectful. It's 8:20. So I just want to thank everyone and have a good night. Thank you. And do not forget to make that application. So Latoya, I'm sending you that formal email again today so you can share with the others for the equipment, and before the end of the week, we'll have the call for proposals for the 50,000, up to 50,000 for your startup.
All right, you know that.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Just before you leave, I just got disconnected when you said, when you're giving us a reminder.
Oh, I was just reminding, I had shared with you a link. I think we have redone the links and everything, so I'll send an email to Latoya with the grant. That's the 1 million equipment.
Okay.
It's up to 1 million, meaning you might have a collective of you who get awarded, whether it's 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 equipment, etc. But we have up 1 million.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, you'll get the templates, Shannon.
Okay.
And I see a few of you started your applications too, so I encourage you to continue and complete it, and do not feel intimidated whatsoever. If you don't know something, ask a question. Okay?
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Pleasant night, everyone.
Have a good
Night,
night.
night. Okay.
Yes, it's for the machine, yes, the machinery and equipment grant. Correct. So I will resend Latoya the information so she could forward it for those of you who did not get access to the link in the first place.
Okay, one question though, with respect to the grant, can somebody who is in the process of starting the business, can they apply?
Technically, yes. You can apply, yes. As long as
Okay.
you can indicate that you'll have your business license and whatever by that
Okay.
time. And
Okay
you
then.
make a good case, yeah. So perhaps work on your business model, if in that way the section for the business model can be nailed. Very
Okay, great, great. Yeah, thank you so much.
all right.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Good night.